Fundraising with Buzz is simple, and something we've learned is that the more ways your community can support you, the easier it is to raise money and save more animals. That's why in Buzz, not only can you use our built-in, customizable donation forms to encourage giving, but you can create as many unique forms as you want. In fact, here's an example of one right here on the homepage. You can see that this rescue chose to keep it simple, with just a space for a first and last name, some suggested donation amounts, a place for custom amounts, as well as a recurring option down here. There are lots of other examples on this website though, so let's start by exploring some and taking a quick look at this rescue's sanctuary building project. On this page you can see they've got a nice little graphic up here, some information about the project, and on the right they have a totally different look for their form. Here you have a set amount and custom amounts, but no recurring options, since this is a project and has a donation goal so the campaign will eventually end. Unlike the form on the homepage, they've also added a space for an email address down here. You can see that they've connected PayPal as their processor, and donors can also choose to pay by credit card. And down below, the rescue's also added a progress tracker as well. This way, potential donors will always be able to see how close the rescue is to achieving its goal, and something as simple as a donation tracker might inspire them to contribute. In Buzz, it's easy to add little design touches like this, and what's more, every time somebody contributes to this specific campaign, the goal thermometer will update itself automatically. On the other hand, you might be throwing an event at a local bowling alley and selling tickets right from your website. This campaign here also has its own specific donation forms. In fact, they have three. They have one option for a bowler, one for a team, and a sponsorship option as well. However, unlike the Sanctuary project, here you're selling tickets at a set price, so you don't need a form with multiple donation levels or custom amounts, and you don't need a recurring donation option either. And because each of these custom forms is specific to a campaign, it unlocks two powerful benefits. First, in Buzz, you can automate the sending of thank you emails whenever someone donates, which is a huge time saver. And because each custom form is campaign specific, you can also customize your thank you emails to match the project in question. This way, donors won't feel like they're simply receiving a generic thank you, and you'll have the ability to update them on the progress of that campaign in any way you want. The point is, once you set up the campaign, everything else is taken care of behind the scenes. The system will send out branded, professional-looking emails automatically whenever someone donates, your community will stay informed for much less effort, and what's more, everyone who donates is also automatically sent an end-of-year tax receipt as well. Now, earlier I mentioned there were two powerful benefits, and the other one is that with campaign-specific forms, you can also have campaign-specific reporting. In other words, by not having all your donations come in through a single, generic, multi-purpose form, rescue administrators will be able to use that data to their advantage, filtering by form to see what campaigns were the most successful, pulling up lists of all their donations or donors, creating and sharing receipts, or taking a deeper dive into the data using reporting dashboards and tools. Now, in terms of actually receiving the money, as well as keeping track of campaign successes, we explore payment processors and donation reporting in the next video, so be sure to check that out.